What it do, guys? It's D'Anthony here, man, aka Hood Scout, back again for another edition of the Hood Scout podcast. And this is really a unique podcast, a podcast like no other. We're going to have athletes, we're going to have coaches, we're going to have intellectuals, we're going to have media members of all sorts. And don't forget, guys, to like this podcast, share this podcast, and help grow this podcast. This is not just my podcast. This is also your podcast. And the only reason it's going to grow is because you guys are going to be invested in it, guys. Sit back, get your beverage of choice ready, get your popcorn ready, get your dinner ready, get your steak ready, get your vegan meal ready. Tune in, guys. Hood Scout. Peace. Hey, what it do, guys? What it do, man? Hood Scout podcast. Hood Scout D'Anthony back again. Really quick intro for this episode. This is an episode I did with Mesquite High School principal, Mr. Joseph. Really good interview. You know, it's not a lot of time that you get to talk to principals and things of that nature, administration on the administration side. And I think that's what makes this podcast original. You know, we're going to have coaches. We've talked to athletes, principals, trainers. You know, it's no limit to this thing when it comes to getting knowledge and getting understanding. But like I always say, guys, continue to support this podcast. Make a donation. I mean, go into your pocket and give $5, give $10, give whatever you can, so we can continue to build this thing, because it's independent. You know, this is not connected to, you know, the big networks. You know, this is ground root, almost underground type of stuff. But the information that we're bringing and the platform that we're giving people to talk is beneficial. So support the podcast, share, like, guys, and really support it, man. Take care, man, and God bless. Hood Scout podcast with Mesquite High School principal. Peace. Hey, what it do, man? Hood Scout back here for another edition of the Hood Scout podcast, where we're blending high school sports, education, and so much more. I'm excited about this guest, and you know, y'all know how I like to do it. So without further ado, tell the people who you are and where you're from.
Awesome. My name's Abram Joseph. I'm a native Louisiana. I am born in New Orleans, raised in a little town called Vacherie, right outside. Ironically, super big points to you. Got one of my guys on, Robert Valdez, Coach Valdez, state champion winning.
Yep.
Coach Valdez of THDE, St. James Wildcat. I grew up, that's my neck of the woods, man. So, you know, I see that hat on your head. I've heard you talk about Grambling and, you know, St. James Wildcats. Truly, those three are my heart and my passion, man. So from there, I went to Grambling State University. I was blessed enough to meet the legendary Coach Eddie Robinson.
Okay.
I met the first Black Super Bowl MVP quarterback, starting quarterback, Doug Williams. He was the coach after Coach Rob. So my most remarkable experience when it comes to athletics at Grambling was seeing Coach Rob after he retired, looking at Grambling. He would stand, and I don't know if many people know this, but he would stand about 50 yards out of the sight of everybody and just watch him. And at that time, I think his Alzheimer's hadn't kicked in, but he was just still so in love with Grambling. So just to see him in front of his car, be able to talk to him once or twice, one-on-one, just us two. Now that I reflect on it, man, that was jewels. And so to graduate from Grambling, then go into different locker rooms, whether it was West Mesquite, where I was an AP, or
And let me start, principal. Cause I want to chop it up a little bit and kind of lead into it, okay? Cause see, that'll kind of save us a little. That'll allow us to really dive in a little with a little time. So, walk me back to growing up in Louisiana. What was that experience like for you?
Man, my dad had 14 brothers and sisters.
Old school.
Yeah, 17 if you count those that passed, and my mom 11. And so I may be missing even one of them, but that doesn't just stop there. My great grandmother was still living at the time. So when she died, she had 103 grand and great grandkids.
Ooh, that's a blessing.
Yeah. I'm very blessed, man. Um, I was low middle class. Didn't
Okay.
know I didn't have because I had so much love for my
Yep.
community. I
Mm-hmm.
had so much love from my family members. I had so much love from my school, my educators. So growing up, I was a typical kid. Um, you know, in church,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in the street. When I got older, it got a hold of me.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I still
Yeah.
had people praying for me and trying to
Mm-hmm.
get me where I needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
People always poured into me and told me I had potential if I could just focus.
Wow.
So, I have one brother, one sister. They're much older. My dad, to this day, is 78 years old. My mom is passed. So I always grew up around older people that tried to pour into me. My dad was a sharecropper, believe it or not. You can Google it.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't
my
expect to hear that.
yeah.
Wow.
My mom and dad, born raised on the Lower Plantation. It's a tourist site now. My
Wow.
sister and brother was born there. Like my people just come from a plantation, man. Most people of the story of Louisiana, you hear New Orleans, but
Mm-hmm.
most people lived on plantations, worked there, and they would go to the city, as we call it, to sell their crops. So nobody's really from New Orleans. They started on those plantations and migrated there. So, man, now that I reflect on it,
Uh-huh.
I say this line about my son. I have a little son. His name's Isaac. I love him. He's my world.
Mm-hmm.
And I love kids. And I always think about him when I'm loving on kids.
Mm-hmm.
But if my son come to me right now and say, "Hey, Daddy, I need $1,000 to go on this trip," I could tell him no, but I still got it. I still
Mm-hmm.
have it.
Mm-hmm.
Where coming up, uh, my daddy didn't have it. Not
Yeah.
that I mean, literally. So not having it taught me something. It taught
Okay.
me go. It taught me how to go get it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas poverty, there is a beauty to poverty. To
Mm-hmm.
poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with my son, he won't learn those that grit, those intangibles,
Yeah.
because coming with a mother and a father who has those things.
Yeah.
So, man, I was extremely blessed for the things I didn't have
Yeah.
more than what I did have.
Mm-hmm.
So that was still a day when I'm overwhelmed as being Mr. Joseph, the principal. I
Mm-hmm.
just go back on my block and somebody call me baby. Um, Somebody offer me something to eat just to
Mm-hmm.
my to my church to go see the Wildcats play.
Yeah.
Man, it makes me feel like a kid again. So I was extremely blessed growing up.
So, man, that was powerful, and I didn't realize that about New Orleans. About many other people were from the plantations. Their ancestors. That's interesting, and I remember somebody saying back in the old days, New Orleans was known for that selling. Like people would, um, they would make some dish. I don't know if it was bread or chicken, and they would go sell it in. Do you know about that? We'll sell it in New Orleans, like
Well,
the women.
it's called a French market, and I had an uncle named John. His name's Uncle John, but he had a truck, and all the men in my neighborhood, sharecroppers,
Yeah.
most of the men, I shouldn't say all,
Yeah.
they would put those crops in the back of their trucks. Ladies wanted to sell something, they would go take it down to French Quarters, Trinity, Jackson Square, whatever,
Uh huh.
and they made a profit from it. It's so astounding now when I have conversations with people and they're like, "Your dad was a sharecropper." Like, yeah, that's not what he finished as,
Mm-hmm.
but my dad know work. You
Yep.
know, my dad knows how to build houses,
Old
whatever.
school. Uh
But
huh.
he learned all those things being on the plantation. And his dad, I heard this story
Wow.
about. I had one of my grandfathers. They call him Goliath. He's a big man. My dad's 6'3", but I'm a short guy. But my
Me too.
dad was a big man,
Wow.
and apparently my mom's dad was the first person on the plantation with water. Uh,
Whoa.
electricity. I would literally hear them talk about having outhouse. So
Yeah. Wow.
my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, at times he would be seen as the Uncle Tom.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He was the one that had the tractor, could tell, other people. The So it's just very interesting stories that my dad keeps me aligned to
Hmm.
make sure I recognize who I am. And why is that so important is, and I'll tell you, and I'm not saying this wrong, people will think I'm saying this wrong,
Hmm.
but it's important that you treat the superintendent just as well as you treat the custodian.
Oh yeah.
And what I mean by that
Hmm.
is most people say you need to treat the custodian as well as you treat the superintendent. Nah, those custodians got so much game,
Hmm.
you know, and such a plight.
Yeah.
You should have such a respect for them
Yeah.
that you should treat everybody like you treat the custodian.
That's a
So
nugget.
yeah, so when I walk to anybody, man, I just think about. I'm not gonna labor on this too long, but I have an uncle who's a millionaire, and he gives me game. He works with me. He's a great man. It's not about his money at all. But I got a aunt that didn't graduate from sixth grade, or didn't get a sixth grade education,
Uh huh.
but she like the big mama of the whole neighborhood. And
Yeah.
the respect, I got more respect for her. I didn't shake. I've shaken, I've shook President, shaken hands with President Obama.
Okay.
I got just as much respect for my aunt Shirley, who raised everybody, as
Yeah.
I do for the first black president.
Hmm.
And her education is not aligned at all, but the wisdom, the
Yeah.
leadership, the ability, her
Yep.
force. I mean, still to this day, I believe we should have a neighborhood holiday based on my aunt Shirley. That's how impactful she was.
Wow. Wow. That was a lot, man. That was some nuggets. Um. So talk to me about that high school experience. How was that experience, and then we can transition when you went off to college. That was
Man,
interesting, right there, though.
my high school, you take it back, and I spoke to Mesquite High's football camp, boot camp about this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but um, I was really blessed because my stupidity started when I was like in sixth grade,
Oh.
and I was doing stuff I had no business doing in sixth grade.
Okay.
Uh, I'm talking about 2 for 5. Uh, this is I mean, young, uh, following my friends, being with my friends. I shouldn't want to say following, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you, dudes love me. By the time I got to ninth grade, I'm back that up. I had a principal named John Brass in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
He would always, Joseph, pull your pants up. Joseph, man, you got a gift. Joseph, if you do
Wow.
this, he was the first black male besides for my pastor that I saw every day wear a shirt and tie. So
Wow.
he would just pour into me, pour into me.
That means so much.
Oh man, as I reflect, he has no idea. And
Yep.
I've reached out to his son is actually I may be getting this wrong, the state senator of Louisiana.
Oh
His name is
wow.
Ken Brass. But
Wow.
John Brass and my principals was so instrumental. So
Wow.
when I high school, I went in to do the same stupidity.
Okay.
I went in to do the same stupidity. Yeah. My grandmother passed,
Mm-hmm.
and it just clicked to me.
Mm.
All those prayers at that time, it just clicked like, man, you got to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
So, not that I became perfect, but I was focused. I was more focused.
Okay.
I knew I had a skill set.
Okay.
I knew I was gifted, and I knew I was going to build upon those gifts.
And how did you
So,
know that?
man, all my life, I told you about those aunts and uncles in my
Mm-hmm.
church. I'm not saying this. Like I hear people talk about Black History programs and things they have learned.
Mm-hmm.
from the school or what they want to hear from. Man, my church instilled that
Mm.
from a kid. Man, they had me in front of podiums. I mean, I
Wow.
had speech and debate teachers. My secretary at my school was my Sunday school teacher, Lena Kepley.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
I mean, she just poured in me. And it's just me, my neighborhood itself, they pour into kids,
Man,
you
that's
know,
good.
being in a small neighborhood, so I was just blessed. So by the time I got in high school, I had been fooled to think that I could do whatever I wanted to do.
Mm.
And still today, when I'm struggling, I fall back on those things,
Yeah.
you know, being poured into. So I got into, and this was black, white, it didn't
Yeah.
matter. And
True. True.
they put their hands on me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got to high school, I'll tell you, man, it for me, it was all about hustling.
Okay.
I was about a 3.0 ish type kid. I
Mm-hmm.
could have did better, but I like girls. I
Yeah.
mean, that was that was my thing. I was I was
Uh, that's
oh man,
funny.
yeah. And so when I see my kids now, I'm like, I can't give them grief.
Mm-hmm.
You So I was focused on average player.
Mm-hmm.
My skill set wasn't there. I had great court vision, but average player. But more importantly, I knew I was special. So by
Okay.
the time I got to 12th grade,
Mm-hmm.
missing something, my mom had 11 strokes and kidney transplant, legally blind. I mean, from her first stroke and finding her on a carpet and her not knowing who my brother, sister, or whoever was,
Mm.
and I was changing diapers. I gave medicine before I went to school in a tube at lunchtime. I would
Mm.
come home. I would pour Ensure down her tube because she couldn't eat through her mouth. I mean,
Mm.
I would pour medicine. I would take her feces out and throw it in the ditch, clean her feminine parts.
Mm-hmm.
It was a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was so blessed to work hard to be able to have somebody to sit with her while I was at school. So I tell you, man, my mom was my best friend. Even though it was a struggle, it was a blessing also. So my
Wow.
high school opportunities were based around my little girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
me, and my mom. But really, it was my mom. It
Wow.
was, and it helped create the heart that I have.
Yeah, that's good.
By my 12th grade year, like I said, my dad never graduated from high school. My mom and dad were married at 16,
Mm-hmm.
17. Had first kid at 16. My mom went back to graduate.
Mm.
So I had people in my family that were educated, and I had people in my family that were, pastors or jailbirds or drunk, the
Yeah.
whole plethora of things.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lady named Elaine Grant, and she's my best friend's mom.
Mm.
And it was four of us, all of them great athletes. I'm talking about great athletes, my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what I was going to do, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. Either I was going to run a plant or I was going to sell drugs or do something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But she was like, Abram, you need to, go to school. I was, you know, I said, okay, no big. I had skill, but no direction. And
Mm.
that's scary for people. No direction, even being an educator now, is probably one of the most dangerous things. It's not hustling,
Mm.
but if you can focus and you can guide people to help in the direction. So Elaine Grant got me her son, Alfred Grant,
Mm-hmm.
uh, probably one of the best running backs in Louisiana history, Lydell Dabney, another
Wow.
guy named Rydell Harry, and Tremaine Blaine.
Mm.
She was like, hey, y'all fools, y'all going to Grambling.
Mm.
So she did all our paperwork. My my dad took $2,500 out his little 401k, put it in his underwear, and we drove 5 hours to Grambling. And that was the
Mm.
first time I ever saw Grambling State University. The day
Mm.
I didn't do any uh, recruiting trips. I didn't do any, let me go check it out. It was this woman just put her hand on me and say, hey, this is what you're going to do. And
Wow.
so Grandma was a great experience. Two of those guys, man, we lost to death.
Oh
One
wow.
one murdered, one passed after, one of them left. Alfred wound up graduating,
Mm.
but
Sorry to hear that.
um, so my neighborhood encompasses of, I know people that are doctors, lawyers, some of the greatest of the world. I know some people that's died
Mm-hmm.
of violence. So
Man, that's good. So when you got out of college, did you know which area you was gonna go into? And I'm gonna say middle of water too. Did you know what area you want to go into?
uh, no, actually, my undergrad was PA pre-law. I applied to law school and
Oh
got
wow.
yeah got accepted to um, at law school, Ole Miss.
Okay.
Uh,
Wow.
but once again, women. I was in love,
Okay.
and I decided to follow. I decided to come to Dallas with my then girlfriend, super bright young lady. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
exceptional. And so from there, I said, man, you know what? Let me go. And it was in December.
Mm-hmm.
I said, let me go and sign up for school. So I put in a bunch of applications and wind up going to the Mesquite High School.
Oh wow.
And
What year was it? What year we talking?
man, I'm gonna tell my age.
Hey, that's a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. But a lot of the coaches and teachers that are on campus now, I don't say a lot, but there are a lot of educators that you talk to now that were my students. So
Oh
they were,
wow.
it was right after state championship, so about 2003, 2004.
Oh man, that's amazing. That's I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So,
Oh,
man, I've seen some
that's
great
amazing.
athletes come through there. And let
For
me
real?
back. Yeah, oh man, some great ones. And people talk about Texas football and it being great, and it is. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give you a glimpse of who I saw being a high school student at St. James High School. Marshall Falk,
Okay.
Peyton Manning,
Dang.
Ed Reed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, man, there was this guy named Rondell Mealy. I mean, the athletes of
Yeah.
Hall of Famers at that
Yeah.
time. You could find them in a 25-mile, 30-mile radius
Wow.
of Hall of Famers, man. Peyton Manning. And I know dudes that were better than them at
I
this
I I can imagine too. Yeah.
yeah. So I literally I saw Ed Reed before the world knew. I knew Marshall Falk before the world knew
How
who.
good was Ed Reed back then? Did it already stand out? Like when he was younger?
Man, he was at Destrehan High School, and
Mm-hmm.
his vision was remarkable. But St. James gave him run for the money. I mean,
Okay.
we had dogs just as well, but Ed Reed was Ed Reed
Yeah.
in high school. I mean,
Ooh.
Bill Belichick talked about Peyton Manning was Peyton Manning in high school.
Yeah.
Marshall Falk could throw for 15 yards and rush for 300. Marshall
Now
Falk,
it's out.
oh
See,
man,
the other thing kids need to understand, like what you end up becoming, it's already in you most
oh
of the time.
Michael Clayton, um, Booger McFarland,
Yeah, that's LSU right there. Yeah.
Marcus. No, I'm talking about high school.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying later on. Yeah. Yeah.
Marcus Spear,
Yeah. I heard about him.
Green. I mean, just dogs. So when I
Mm-hmm.
hear talk about like, man, I saw this dude in high school, like, man, I saw Peyton Manning and Ed Reed and
Yeah.
Mark. Walk, like for real,
Yeah.
yeah, like for real. And in my neighborhood, I had guys that could deal with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Louisiana got some ballers. I think, and I wish we could see that matchup more because they had it a few times. I know DeSoto played the team from Louisiana,
Yeah,
a couple other schools, but I wish that could be an annual game, bro, because Louisiana, like I told Coach Valdez, y'all up there with Georgia, with Alabama, with Florida, Texas, Cali, but I'm
yeah,
saying you're with them other states, North Carolina. They play really good football. Like
yeah,
Louisiana play really, and y'all athletes. They got a lot of athletes. So
yeah.
man,
The
that's
programs are invested into more in Texas.
yeah, yeah,
That's the difference. But there's a reason that every SEC coach will go and find a assistant coach from the Louisiana area. You,
real
you,
talk.
you can scour all of them,
Yep.
you know. And so that's something when Nick Saban is saying, I'm gonna have 3, 4 guys on my staff from New Orleans. He ain't stupid, or
Yeah.
from
Dang.
yeah,
Wow.
he ain't stupid. But yeah, that was my experience in high school, coming to Mesquite High,
Hmm.
and I was just a young kid in 2003. I was the only black. I brought this up on another podcast. I was the only black male educator at Mesquite High, besides for being a coach. Um,
Wow.
so it was, when Dr. Nix hired me, he told me, he said, there are going to be some kids that drive better cars than you. I had no idea what he was
Wow.
talking about. But really, he was telling me how the demographics would be different than who I am. And I didn't
Okay.
know because at the time I lived in Oak Cliff.
Okay.
So when I would do my apartment, when I did my apartment application, it was like, well, write down where your job is. So
Hmm.
I wrote Mesquite High School, and they would look at me like, "You go to
Dang.
Mesquite?"
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, well, "What's the big deal?" Like, you in Mesquite? Like, yeah, I'm in
Wow.
Mesquite. I had no clue that at that time they were trying to tell me there was such a lack of diversity, and
Wow.
I'm shocked that you were there.
Hmm.
And at the time, we couldn't wear facial hair, so
I
black
remember
folks.
that post you said that. You said that post, and I still remember you saying that because I was like, man, can you imagine how it was probably?
Yeah, yeah, and black men, don't usually go without their facial hair. So it was a
Yeah.
very intriguing time.
Hmm.
But Ski welcomed me. I met some great people. So that was my journey in 2003ish at Mesquite High School. That's how it
So,
started.
so you've been in Mesquite all this time
Man, I'm a vet in Mesquite. I think this is my 18th year going into my 19th.
at the same school.
Mm-mm.
Okay, different one.
I know those neighborhoods in Mesquite like few. And what I
For real?
mean by that is I may be educated, but at every stop, I have been the one where parents felt that they could come talk to me. So on the Pee Wee games, I'm in the neighborhood, I'm in the community.
Hmm.
I can tell you about Horns area because I was at Terry Middle School. I can tell you about West Mesquite because I was at West. I was at Poteet, Mesquite Academy, Mesquite High. So I've kind of touched the different areas.
And how long have you been at Mesquite High School?
In total, this will be my eighth year.
Okay.
Excuse me, my seven. I did six as a teacher, an
Oh,
intern,
okay.
and then this is my first year as principal.
Which is big. Congrats on that. That's big. Um, Up until this point, what are like looking back? What are some lessons that you learned as a principal now? But you looking back as a teacher all those years and different experiences. What are some lessons to be gleaned from those times?
Learn the craft, man. I mean, dig in and learn the craft, whatever you're doing, because being a young black male, innately, kids came up to me because there were very few that looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I had the opportunity to impact all kids
Mm-hmm.
just because I could relate.
Okay.
But what I was missing was the ability not only to relate, but if you can kind of, I would align it to being a head coach that can just rah rah rah, but going into halftime you're down and you don't know how to make adjustments.
Yeah.
It's very important to know how to dive into the teak, how to coach a teacher, how to look at um, education and grow a student. Because man, crackheads love me, jailbirds love me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my uncle, Angola, dead and gone now. He loved me, but
Mm-hmm.
could he help me map out a plan? And that's what's the difference between educators
Mm-hmm.
and others. We not only love kids,
Mm-hmm.
but we try to create a roadmap and equip them with tools so they can go and impact the world. So if my advice to myself and to those, especially men, especially black men,
Mm-hmm.
um, my advice would be to, man, dig in and learn the craft.
Yeah.
I'm talking about get in good teachers' classroom and find out what works. Don't
Yeah.
just be the guy they can come and have a cool handshake with, or give them some Doritos, or
Yeah. No, that's
tell
another.
them
Yeah.
you you can be good.
Mm,
Get in there and say, "Hey, man, I look at your cum folder, and
mm-hmm.
I see that your cognitive ability, your verbal scores are at 100. And so, because of that, you're learning in an average manner. I see that non-verbally, you don't pick up on cues. So, being able to go to a teacher and say, when you talk to Johnny, I see verbally he's more equipped. Let's look at assessing Johnny or teaching Johnny in that manner, so
Mm-hmm.
that light can turn on. And when Johnny has that light himself, man, there's only so many times you can say, man, you good, rah, rah, rah. You
Yeah.
got to be able to tell Johnny what he's good at.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's just so big about reading and, you know, dive into the craft, man.
Yeah.
It's hustling just like it's on the street, just like it's in the boardroom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, put that work in.
Principal, define what is education mean to you? I mean, you are an educator by trade, but what is that? What does that word mean to you? What does education mean to you?
Creating freedoms.
Okay.
Education means not only math, science, and the book, the textbook. It's creating opportunities for students, for people, not only students, so they can create their own freedom, so they don't have to depend on anybody.
Okay.
So, you know, my teachers, I had some great teachers growing up,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't remember them telling me rise over one slope. I remember
Mm.
it's them investing in me and leading me so I can create my own freedom. And what I mean by creating freedoms is, I see dudes on the gram and doing all these things. They'll pull out money and they'll do all this,
Mm-hmm.
and that's their form of freedom. I'm not hating on that.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
The other day I went to the grocery store and I bought a bunch of stuff. It probably was 80, 90 bucks, $100. The point is, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I remember as a kid going into a store and my mama having a certain amount of money,
Yeah.
and if it was a penny over, we had to put things back.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt God's blessing.
Yeah.
When I was in that store, I left and I thought, actually, that was today. I went in Kroger. I said, man, I didn't even have to check the price.
Yeah.
I ain't had to check the price on a banana. It sounds
Yeah.
crazy. I ain't had to
Nah,
check
it
the
don't.
price.
It don't. I
I ain't had
understand
to
that.
check the price on the corn. I ain't
Mm-hmm.
had to check the price on whatever I got. The
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
simple blessing. And man, I am so grateful that education has allowed me the freedom to go in the store in a grocery store and pick up whatever my son needs. And I remember my mom going in,
Mm-hmm.
thinking, man, I got my social security check is $115. This $115 got to last 30 days. And so when I go to the grocery store, if it goes to $116, I can get this for my child. But I am so blessed through
Yeah.
education
Mm-hmm.
that I have the freedom to be able to do things, to create things for my family. So education for me is creating opportunity that leads to freedoms for our students and for our people.
What is the day like for a school principal, high school, 6A, pretty nice size school? What's the day like for you?
Crazy, man.
Oh,
I hear people say that 1 year at Mesquite High School is 7 years in education.
that's funny. Wow.
Oh man, I wish it was a joke, but it's true.
That's funny though. Because that sounds like a joke. Crazy. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I just had to laugh at that.
It is real. So it depends what comes about. So it depends on who do you want to be as an educator. So I can go in my office and I can get to my email, and my
Mm-hmm.
boss is emailing me. My other boss is emailing me, and my other boss, and the parent is emailing me. Everybody is emailing,
Mm-hmm.
and I can take my day and take care of all those things, which I need to.
Mm-hmm.
But the little kid that's going through something that don't know me hadn't seen my face.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be able to prioritize. And for me, I could be wrong. My priorities have to be the kids. I need to be where the kids at.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great mentor, and I mean, Tim, she's awesome, amazing. At times, she would say, "I've done my time in the cafeteria, dude,
Yeah.
as a principal."
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, you go to most cafeteria duties, you're not going to see a principal because they didn't put their time in, and they got a lot of things they should be doing.
That's good.
But I see that cafeteria important.
Mm-hmm.
Morning time, I want to go in there. Lunchtime, I want to go. I'm picking up a kid's tray.
Yeah.
Picking up their tray not because they can't do it, but I want to pick up the tray to just say, man, hey, I'm Mr. Joseph. What's your name? How you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Building a relationship with kids.
Mm-hmm.
So my priority is at every opportunity to get myself in front of kids. And I may lack in other areas, but I know that's my main job. I'm gonna keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
From there, you know, we want school safety, so I'm always in the hallways,
Mm-hmm.
not because I want the school to be safe, and I'm encouraging my APs and the teachers because that's when you can see what's about to happen. It's not only to prevent a fight from occurring, but it's to bond, you
Okay.
know, but also support teachers. Then from there, I want to try to get in classroom.
Mm.
And remember, I talked about earlier about you can love on people, but also you gotta get into grind of growing instruction.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't tell if a teacher what support a teacher needs if I'm not in there.
Okay.
And when I'm in the classroom, my objective is not to antagonize or judge a teacher. There's a facet of that. My objective is to be able to go in and know them so well that if my boss asks me something about them, I'm able to advocate for them. So
Mm.
I'm getting in classroom, then they may have a neighborhood person that emails me because trash is in their yard.
Okay.
I may get a call from the local NAACP saying this is going on. I may get a call from the judge that's saying we got kids in the park.
Mm.
At Mesquite High School,
Yeah.
anything could occur.
Mate.
Everybody reaches out. So, you really just have to prioritize what's most important. And for me, I could be wrong, but what's most important is being around kids and being around staff.
Mm-hmm. What would you say? What is a principal's view of extracurricular activities like sports, or band competition, something like that? What's a principal's feel on those things?
So earlier I mentioned the word area opportunities. I look
Mm-hmm.
at it very scientifically, like where could I get my most bang for buck? I'm in a cafeteria because there's 900 kids.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to the hallway while the bell's ringing, it may be only 5 kids. So mathematically, it tells me the cafeteria is most bang for buck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's kind of look at sports. You got to realize that you may have 20,000 people in the stands. You may have 100 kids on a football team. You may have 20 kids on basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Those are areas of opportunities that you need to be involved in to help shape the culture of your campus as,
Mm-hmm.
as your extracurricular programs, not only sports,
Mm-hmm.
but band,
Mm-hmm.
speech, debate, fine arts, all those things as they go, the culture of your school goes.
All right now.
It is imperative, and I'll tell you my personal mission. My personal mission is to authentically invest in people that they may impact the world.
Okay.
What that means to me is a Phil Jackson mentality. I'm gonna tell you in 5 second Phil Jackson's best play he ever called. Spread the floor. Let Michael.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't all this other stuff is Michael.
Mm-hmm.
He did this.
Mm-hmm.
and then clear it for Michael.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to clear it for DeMarcus Harris. My job
Mm.
is to clear it for Kelsey Baker. My job is to clear it for Lance Filazowski. My job is to provide them whatever they need within the confines of the rules to make sure that they're impactful.
Mm.
Assess them, give them feedback, and they'll tell you, I give feedback
Yeah.
so they can be in the best position possible to be successful. My job with DeMarcus Harris is no different than it is with the Algebra 1 teacher. It's to
Mm-hmm.
put them in position that they can use their talents to be impactful to those kids.
Yeah. Do is that rare in education? Do you think, Principal? You think that's a rare thing? Kind
I think it's
of a mixture.
well, I think it is aligned to what we have going on in the world.
Right.
But just like you may have 10% basketball players are great, or 10% of politicians are great, or 10% of meteorologists are great, or
Mm-hmm.
10% of interviewers are great.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a rarity. It's not, of course, across the board, but
Mm-hmm.
I think there are more good than bad. I like to be optimistic with my fellow principals because I would hope they all understand that as your extracurricular programs go, so does the inside of your campus.
True.
So, not in judging, but for myself, I understand that Kelsey Baker is just as important as my Algebra 1, and my Algebra 1 is just as important as Kelsey Baker. So I want to equip them, you know, with all the tools. Coach Harris and I meet on Wednesdays, and um, usually my question at the end to him is, "What do you need?"
Mm.
That's probably one of the most powerful questions you can ask as a leader.
It is. Wow.
What, and not only what do you need, what can I do to help?
Mm.
You know, so I always in our conversations or with any teacher that's saying, this is going on, this is going on. Sometimes they may be venting, but at the bottom line, my ultimate job is to put you in a position to be successful. So my
Wow.
question is, what do you need?
Wow. Mm. That's good right there. What is your ways of growing as an educator, like, or just as a man in general? What is your ways to grow?
I still, man, I go to other places. I sit and I listen to people like you. And I'm not joking about that. I'll tell you what's so significant about your lane that you've created and others like you.
Hmm.
The fact that you've created a lane.
Yeah.
You didn't wait for NBC or somebody saying I got this chunk of money and you go and create your podcast. You created your own lane. So
Thank you for
man, I've learned just as much as reading books from Tony Dungy, Colin Powell,
that. Hmm.
The Alchemist, The Prince.
Yeah.
I've learned just as much from crackheads as I've learned from those books. Like
True.
you should be able to learn in any endeavor,
Hmm.
any person,
Hmm.
whether it's what to do or what not to do. So
Hmm.
I constantly just talk to others. And I have enough confidence in myself and my abilities to know that seeking information doesn't diminish who I am.
Mm.
I'm comfortable in my strengths. I'm aware of my weaknesses, and I understand that seeking information from others, and that's just not persons, will help grow me. So I'm big about looking at others. Before I even got this job, which is crazy, Gerald Sarpy was principal. I was at Mesquite Academy and I didn't have extracurriculars, but I would call him at times and just pick his brain on how he's handling extracurriculars before I even got the job.
Oh wow.
Because I would watch, I'm gonna tell you how this crossover. I would watch Drew Brees for years. The most interesting thing about Drew Brees to me was the year they had a lockout. Drew Brees paid for everything, got all his teammates in, and he would run practices as if coaches were there.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever watch, and you can watch quarterbacks now, if you ever watch Saints tape, Drew Brees would take mental reps, and I didn't see it before,
Mm-hmm.
real mental reps of a whole game before the game even started. Are
Wow.
you perfecting your craft that much before? Are you waiting till you get into the seat
Mhm.
for that job, or are you mentally preparing yourself for that job before it even occurs? And so before becoming a principal in Mesquite High School, I was already taking mental reps.
Wow. Wow. That's good.